Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 195 based on novel. So let's start. When Xiao Yan left the stone chamber, the maid standing at the door had brought the items he auctioned here. Because LV Zhongtian was in the auction house, they were not worried that these things would be robbed. Of course, in addition, it is also because the items they shoot are placed in a special array. If you want to take out things, you must leave their chips. One thing for another is a rule that these auctioneers are unwilling to abide by. After taking back what he got from the auction, Xiao Yan carefully checked it. After confirming that there was no error in each item, he quickly went to the outside of the auction house. After what happened to the old man just now, Xiao Yan seemed to doubt everything he saw in front of him. Unless under his own soul power and strange fire, these items can still remain intact, which will make the latter believe it in his heart. After getting the Fusang flower, Xiao Yan should leave Jinyaocheng and think about the direction of Tianjue ancient tomb. Now that Fusang flowers are in hand, Jinyaocheng naturally doesn't need to stay any longer. If he delays for a long time, it will bring endless trouble to Xiao Yan. On the one hand, in order to hurry, and on the other hand, to avoid trouble, Xiao Yan had to choose to leave here, and the sooner the better. Soon, Xiao Yan came out of the main door of the auction house. Although there are many pedestrians on the street outside the auction, no one has paid attention here. A week has passed since the beginning of the auction. The heat in the hearts of people has naturally gradually calmed down. With the departure of most people, the flow of people in Jinyao City has obviously become sparse, which is not a bad thing. Looking up at the sky, the huge golden mask still wrapped the whole city. After seeing the power of this array last time, Xiao Yan's heart was a little interested in this life. At that time, although he didn't see it with his own eyes, he also obviously felt that the array slowly dispersed after resisting the first Dan Lei. That is to say, the reason why the array dispersed was not because of the Dan Lei, but someone deliberately removed the array in order to destroy Xiao Yan's pill under the Dan Lei. It's just a pity that they underestimated Bei Wang. However, although so, Xiao Yan actually saw the power of that array. Even, Xiao Yan suspected that if the array was fully opened, it would be enough to completely resist the last Dan Lei. Of course, so far, this is only a guess in Xiao Yan's heart, and there is no evidence yet. But even so, it can prove the terror of this array. That is, when Xiao Yan's front foot just stepped out of the gate of the auction house, outside the auction house, at the height of an attic, two figures were standing here. When the former's body just appeared within their sight, the two eyes were firmly fixed on the latter. Feeling the gaze of the two eyes, Xiao Yan could not help but frown slightly. Without much thought, he immediately guessed the identity of the two people. The vision then looked, and sure enough, a black and a white shadow appeared in Xiao Yan's line of sight. It is Qin Yun and Yang He. The two sides made eye contact for a moment, and then the two figures quickly flew towards Xiao Yan with a smile on their face, but in the twinkling of an eye, they had come to the latter. He, I don't know brother Xiao Yan, but the exchange succeeded. As soon as he came to the front, Qin Yun seemed to be joking. Seeing the fake smile on the latter's face, Xiao Yan picked his eyebrows in doubt, and then his eyes turned, and he knew it immediately in his heart. So it seems that the person in front of us should have successfully exchanged the Fusang flower. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan couldn't help laughing, but he shrugged helplessly, showing a lost look, which made the people in front of him more happy. Ha ha, it doesn't matter. If you can't get it, you can't get it. It's just something outside your body. There's nothing to think about. Just, although brother Xiao Yan didn't get Fusang flower, I have another thing here. I don't know whether brother Xiao Yan is interested in knowing it. At this point, Qin Yun's eyes flashed through the depths of his eyes. Oh, I don't know what it is. Can I have a look? Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows, but he was curious about what medicine the guy was selling in the gourd. Ha ha, brother Xiao Yan is really anxious, but I didn't take that thing with me. Why don't you go with me? Where is it? Xiao Yan was puzzled and hesitated. His original plan was to leave Jinyaocheng immediately after he left the auction house, but at present, Qin Yun doesn't seem to want to give him this opportunity. At the same time, Xiao Yang's heart is also curious about what this guy wants to do to himself, so he's not in a hurry to leave. Not far. We'll be there soon. Qin Yun turned to show the way and took Xiao Yang flying away in the predetermined direction. By the way, not long ago, I saw someone produce 10 bottles of ice spirit cold liquid at the auction. Although I didn't see the appearance, I heard that it should be brother Xiao Yang. Although he knew it, Qin Yun pretended to ask. Xiao Yang's eyes twinkled slightly and smiled non-committally. Hehe, actually it's not a big deal, just because the skill I cultivate also happens to be ice attribute. Therefore, if I can get a few bottles of ice spirit cold night, it will undoubtedly be of great benefit to my cultivation. Therefore, brother Xiao Yang. Sorry, I only got the 10 bottles of Bingling cold liquid under the chance. After the previous auction, all the 10 bottles of Bingling cold liquid have been handed over as chips, so I'm sorry. I can't help. Before Qin Yun's words fell, Xiao Yang said with a smile. On hearing this, the latter's eyes coagulated slightly, and a sense of obliteration passed through the depths of his eyes. Then he was perfectly covered up. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face and said, "In that case, I can only blame my bad luck, but I believe that you will be surprised by what I want brother Xiao Yang to see next." Qin Yun smiled all over his face, and his eyes intertwined with Yang He on one side for a moment. The latter was a little cold in his heart, and then his body gradually slowed down. Unconsciously, he actually fell behind Xiao Yang. In his current position, once Xiao Yang wanted to escape, he could stop him at any time. Aware of this, Xiao Yang kept smiling, but his heart was cold. However, for a long time, under the leadership of Qin Yun, Xiao Yang came to the square in the center of Jinyao City. At a glance, the flow of people in the square at this time was no longer a week ago. At this moment, the huge black stone pillar in the center of the square also became more prominent in many eyes. At this moment, Qin Yun was standing right above the stone pillar, perhaps because of the auction. On the square, several people didn't see the people of the Array Mage Association, which also made Qin Yun's smile expand more and more. Seeing Qin Yun stop, Xiao Yang frowned and looked around. He immediately noticed the painted black stone column engraved with runes and seal characters right below their position at the moment. Brother Qin Yun, this is... Xiao Yang frowned tightly and his face was a little low. Ha ha, brother Xiao Yang, this is what I said. Qin Yun's face showed an inexplicable strange smile, stretched out his hand and pointed to the black stone pillar directly below the 3 people at the moment. It doesn't seem to be your thing. His face sank. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed, and he vaguely felt something bad. Yes, this ancient moat array is really not my thing. However, I still want to give this gift to brother Xiao Yang. At this moment, Qin Yun is simply no longer covered up. The smile on his face is more and more ferocious, and a fierce killing opportunity appears in his eyes. At the same time, Yang He behind Xiao Yang also shook his body slightly, and the majestic fighting spirit immediately burst out of his body. What on earth do you want to do? Xiao Yang's face was gloomy, and the fighting spirit in his body had already started. The remaining light in the corner of his eye glanced at Yang He behind him, and then suddenly turned around and locked Qin Yun in front of him. Although Qin Yun's strength is in the 6-star Fight Emperor, within this distance, Xiao Yang is also 80% sure that he can kill him here. Therefore, if the people behind him dare to take any action, Xiao Yang will immediately attack the people in front of him. Before I tell you, I want to ask you one last question. Did you get your ice spirit cold liquid from the hinterland of Shilin mountain range? As soon as Qin Yun said this, Xiao Yang was shocked. How could this guy know that there is Bingling cold liquid in the hinterland of Shilin? Who is this Qin Yun? Gaga, it seems that my child guessed well. Since you can get Bingling cold liquid from there, it means that the cheap woman of Lung Bingshuang should be dead. Otherwise, she will never let a human get close to there, but my child is more curious. How did you get into the hinterland of Shilin? Qin Yun's eyes kept looking at Xiao Yang. His eyes were like looking at a dying man. At the same time, Xiao Yang was shocked when he heard the name of Cold Frost spit out from Qin Yun's mouth. Unexpectedly, Lung Bingshuang, a man from the Shilin region, is actually well known by the strength of a western wasteland region. Moreover, He seems to know that Lung Bingshuang has injuries in his body. In this way, is it? At the thought of some possibility, Xiao Yang felt a deep and dignified meaning in his heart. Those who can hurt cold and frost must also be super strong at the level of Huayuanjing. In front of Qin Yun, the guardians around him are 9-star fighting emperor. It is not difficult to imagine that there must be strong at the level of Huayuanjing among the forces behind him. Coupled with Qin Yun's knowledge of the cold frost, it is not difficult to imagine that the person who hurt the cold frost must be the person behind Qin Yun. As soon as he thought of this, Xiao Yang's heart suddenly lit up an unknown fire, and his killing intention also arose from it. At this moment, Qin Yun in front of him has been included in the blacklist of must kill by Xiao Yang. Do it. Suddenly, Qin Yun gave a low cry. Almost at the same time, Yang He behind Xiao Yang suddenly started and slapped Xiao Yang on the back. Also at this moment, Xiao Yang's Chenjue step was immediately displayed at his feet. While Yang He dodged, Xiao Yang's figure had also come to Qin Yun. In the latter's frightened eyes, Xiao Yang grabbed Qin Yun's neck. At this moment, even Yang He behind him was surprised. He never expected that Xiao Yang in front of him would have such a terrible speed. Is he really just a 5-star fighter? Although he was shocked by Xiao Yang's speed, that was all. When he failed, Yang He didn't seem to worry about Qin Yun's safety. On the contrary, a cold smile appeared on his old face at the moment of looking up. The next moment. Shua. On both sides of Qin Yun, in the originally calm void, a circle of violent spatial ripples suddenly appeared. Then, the void at the center of the ripple collapsed. 2 dry palms protruded from it and fell on Xiao Yang's shoulder. For a moment, the powerful force actually fixed Xiao Yang's body in place. Even the palm that was about to fall on Qin Yun's neck was stopped in the air. Qin Yun quickly retreated back through this short moment. What? Xiao Yang's pupil suddenly shrinks in his eyes. He is even more shocked by the sudden appearance of these 2 people around him. These 2 people can escape his soul exploration. Boy, my little lord, can you touch it? At this time, an old voice full of dignity and hegemony suddenly came from one side. At the same time, Xiao Yang only felt that the pressure on his shoulder suddenly increased and his body sank down involuntarily. Then, the powerful momentum fell heavily on Xiao Yang's head, and Xiao Yang's face changed suddenly. I didn't dare to hesitate. I thought a little. At the center of my eyebrows, the family pattern suddenly appeared, and the momentum in my body suddenly increased at this moment. When the mind moved, the strange fire in the body suddenly surged up from the pores of Xiao Yang's whole body. The forest white flame sent out the flame of terror and destruction. The powerful force rising suddenly surprised the 2 old people on both sides, and their hands involuntarily lifted up, and Xiao Yang's body also quickly flashed back. However, immediately after that, Yang He behind him attacked again. The vigorous wind hunted. Xiao Yang was afraid to be careless. There were tigers in front of him and wolves behind him. In such a situation, Xiao Yang was helpless and had to fly back down. At this time, when all the people below paid attention to Xiao Yang and the 3 old men, Qin Yun fell quietly and came to the stone pillar. In the face of 3 strong 9-star fighting emperors at the same time, even with today's Xiao Yang, he also dare not fight hard. Don't say 3, that is, any one of the 3. Xiao Yang doesn't dare to say that he has the ability to fight one of them. Hiss. As the breaking wind sounded over Xiao Yang's head, an old man in a black robe fell rapidly, and his dry palm fell heavily on Xiao Yang's head. Feeling the terrible momentum falling from the top of his head, Xiao Yang couldn't help but be awed by it. The steps under his feet changed and Tianjue steps were displayed one after another, which made the old man's palm wipe Xiao Yang's body tightly. This boy! What a strange speed! Seeing that Xiao Yang dodged his blow, the old man was also surprised. Just when he whispered in his heart, Xiao Yang sighed and Yang his body attacked again. The distance between the 2 is very close, which makes Xiao Yang have no time to avoid. Therefore, he can only fight head-on. Bang! At the moment when Xiao Yang turned around, one punch collided with Yang He. The violent collision sound that made the eardrum roar suddenly sounded. Xiao Yang's body trembled uncontrollably. With the strength between the 2 sides, he quickly retreated back. But then, "Boy, where are you going? Stay for me." The other 9-star fighting emperor, when Xiao Yang retreated violently, came behind him and slapped Xiao Yang on the back. Damn it. With Xiao Yang's state at the moment, he can't completely avoid this blow. If it's true, it's impossible to face 3 9-star fighting emperors alone. At least, he is far from that strength now. Drink. With a fierce drink in his heart, Xiao Yang's muscles suddenly tightened up, and his plain face suddenly became ferocious, and the blood color surged up, which filled the whole face with red. The blue veins were exposed, and the dragon phoenix's ancient armor covered his whole body in a twinkling of an eye, emitting a purple-golden light. He had to resist this blow with all his strength. Power image determination, give me up. The roar was sent out at the bottom of his heart, and the terrible strength was diffused outward. The invisible void around Xiao Yang was suddenly twisted under this terrible strength and almost wanted to collapse. Almost at the same time, the old man's palm behind him also fell on Xiao Yang's back with momentum. Bang! The dull crash suddenly sounded. Xiao Yang's body suddenly shook and his teeth clenched, which forced the powerful force down. As soon as his throat was sweet, the blood surged up. Xiao Yang swallowed the blood forced up his throat. Then, the fighting spirit in his body swept out. Under the threat of different fire, he shook the 3 people around him back. What about the strange fire? Let's go together and leave him. Their faces changed slightly at first, and then turned into a cold hum. They set off together and surrounded Xiao Yang again. However, this time, with different fire in front, even with their strength, they still took the initiative to separate a short distance from Xiao Yang. The 4 figures are in the void. You come and go. The 3 people constantly wipe past Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang also tries his best to deal with the 3 people with the strength of his soul and Tianjueba, hoping to find an opportunity to leave here. Facing the 3 9-star fighting emperors on his own, Xiao Yang thought he would never be an opponent. It would be no good for him for a long time. Moreover, the people of the Array Mage Association are also eyeing him. Once they get out of the auction, Xiao Yang really can't go if he wants to go. With this in mind, Xiao Yang's body method has become more fierce, but the 3 9-star fighting emperors are not ordinary people. Under the joint efforts of the 3 people, Xiao Yang was blocked in this range for a while, making the latter unable to advance or retreat. After a while, despite the protection of different fire, the 3 people around him could not easily hurt Xiao Yang, but they still left a lot of scars on him after all. The red blood turned into dry blood scabs under the different fire. As time went by, the scars on Xiao Yang's body kept increasing, and the blood gradually turned into a layer of armor, covering Xiao Yang's whole body. In the auction house, people are gradually coming out of the Bank of China. The auction has reached the real closing time, but the trouble on Xiao Yang's side is always like a maggot on the tarsal bone, and can't be thrown away. In the twinkling of an eye, the increasing effect of the family pattern has disappeared, and Xiao Yang's strength has also dropped sharply at this moment. For Xiao Yang's situation at the moment, this undoubtedly makes his heart more heavy. However, just at this time, on such a large square, the change was abrupt. Click. With a crisp click, just below Xiao Yang, but a few meters away, it was the painted black stone column. At the moment, with the sound of clicking, it was as crisp as broken porcelain, but it was very clear on the square. At this time, everyone present could not help but be slightly stunned, including the 3 9-star fighting emperors standing on the void at the moment, and Xiao Yang, who is closest to the black stone pillar at this time. The expression on his face seemed a little stunned at this moment. Then, when the people in heaven and earth looked at the place where the sound came, they saw that clear cracks were rapidly spreading to the whole stone pillar. Golden lights gushed out from those dense cracks, just like a scorching sun and brilliance. At this moment, the expression on Xiao Yang's face changed suddenly. At this moment, he finally knew that Qin Yun's real purpose of bringing himself here was very clear at this moment, even if the latter was close to his purpose. Qin Yun came here just for this strange array. From the very beginning, he entered Jinyaocheng for the purpose of destroying this stone pillar. Then when he approaches his answer, it becomes clear. Almost at the same time, at the entrance of the auction house, a group of people dressed in gold cannons gradually appeared. At first glance, The group of people saw through the crowd that the painted black stone column in the middle of the square was filled with dense cracks. Immediately, in their shocked eyes, the painted black stone column collapsed and turned into pieces of debris. Boom! Suddenly, powerful energy surged out from under the broken stone column, turned into a huge milky light column and disappeared into the sky. Almost at the same time, the people of the Array Mage Association turned into a gloomy look on their already unhappy faces, and their eyes locked on the figure closest to the original location of the stone pillar at this moment. It's Xiao Yan. The Array. Destroyed. At the entrance of the auction house, a group of figures dressed in gold cannons are locked in the middle of the square, on the figure in a young black robe. The crowd, especially an old man in a robe, was shocked and angry on his face. His anger surged up, and his whole body could not help shaking violently. The breath in the body almost spread out uncontrollably, and the void around the body burst after a violent twist, turning into an endless dark void. Just a moment ago, under the eyes of all of them, when Xiao Yang approached the painted black stone column, the stone column also collapsed. As I have seen with my own eyes, the most powerful array that the Mage Association has always relied on was ruthlessly destroyed in front of them at this time. Needless to say, the man who destroyed the array was the young man in black in front of them. President, it's him. The man who refined the 4th level pill before is this boy. Last time Qin Yun came forward and saved him. I also saw him walking side by side with Qin Yun. Beside the old man in the brocade robe, Cheng Zhuhui came forward with a gloomy face and said to the old man in the brocade robe. Hearing Cheng Zhuhui's words, the chilly cold color appeared on the old man's gloomy face. Qin Yun. The old man in the brocade robe clenched his hands fiercely into fists under his sleeve robe, and looked at him, but he saw Qin Yun standing high in the air at this time. His eyes were also staring at Xiao Yang below. Around Xiao Yang's body, the 3 9-star fighting emperors were also unwilling to be weak. Although the stone pillar was destroyed, the goal of the 3 of them was Xiao Yang. For the former, they were indifferent, or not worried at all. Come with me. The old man in the brocade robe waved his hand fiercely, and a group of people behind him immediately followed him and flew quickly towards Xiao Yang and others. Later, another place outside the auction house, Han Dong, also left the auction house just now, but he didn't expect that the next scene would be so shocking. In particular, when he saw that Xiao Yang happened to be beside the stone pillar, his heart sank fiercely, and he immediately understood Qin Yun's purpose of approaching Xiao Yang. There are ulterior motives to plant and frame the blame. Although he had understood this in his heart, Han Dong did not choose to come forward immediately, but observed secretly. First, let's see if these people of the Array Mage Association would be really stupid enough to be deceived by others. If Xiao Yang was okay, he would do it immediately if things change. With his soul power, he has some confidence to block these people. Moreover, coupled with the name of their herbalist alliance, these people dare not act rashly. Qin Yun, you and my family have always been well water without violating the river. What's the purpose of your move today? As soon as he came up, the old man in the brocade robe angrily shouted at Qin Yun Lung. At the same time, a powerful momentum also rushed over Qin Yun fiercely. Seeing that the old man did not hesitate to shoot at himself, Qin Yun was also shocked. This was beyond his expectation. Unexpectedly, this guy had already started before he heard his mouth. President Fan, don't you want to hear the truth of this matter? My young master can't afford this injustice. Once you hurt him in vain today, you should know what results you will face. Just when the momentum came to Qin Yun, a 9-star fighting emperor who was originally standing on the side of Xiao Yang suddenly flashed here. The powerful momentum spread out like an iron wall, blocking the momentum of the old man surnamed Fan. The old man's face was already gloomy. After hearing the threatening words from the black-robed people in front of him, he was even more depressed. The destruction of the array is undoubtedly the heaviest blow to their Array Mage Association. At present, if this guy could not push the one out, I'm afraid Qin Yun would have to pay for it even if he had a great reason today. Yang Hua, are you deliberately threatening me? You can naturally think so, if you are really not afraid. The black-robed old man called Yang Hua looked coldly at the brocade-robed old man opposite, and a sneer arose from the corners of his mouth. It seems that what he just said has had its due effect. President Fan, I wonder if the president can listen to me about this. You told me to listen to you. It all started because of you. You did it all yourself. Now you let me listen to you? The old man in the brocade robe suddenly became angry. His calm state of mind had long disappeared. His rage made him almost want to roar. However, for the sake of the face of their array mage association, he finally endured it. Of course, he was more or less afraid of the character. Does the president really think this is because of me? You said I did it all by myself. I dare ask the president, can you give me a reason? Why should I do this? What good is it for me? Hearing the words of the old man in the brocade robe, Qin Yun smiled coldly at the bottom of his heart. This is the result he wants. When the latter heard the speech, the look on his old face was also slightly stunned, and then he couldn't help laughing angrily and sneered. Qin Yun, you're so good. How dare you do it? Didn't you bring that boy in? You defended him from the beginning in order to create opportunities for him to destroy the array. I saw it with my own eyes. Now you dare to say the truth here. Why, are you serious because I'm old and confused? President Fan, as you can see, I had a close relationship with Xiao Yan before. That's why I took a fancy to his talent, his potential, and making friends with heroes all over the world. This is what everyone is willing to do. It is precisely because I value him that I came forward for him and made trouble for him in the last Dan refining. But now you can see it, the array was indeed destroyed, but the 3 guardians around me are now fighting around Xiao Yan. They are my guards. They will never fight anyone without my command. Just now, I came here at the invitation of Xiao Yan, but I didn't expect that he actually wanted to destroy the array and blame me for this crime. If it hadn't been Yang Hua, I'm afraid I'm really a scapegoat now. Qin Yun stared angrily at President Fan opposite. Qingjuan's face couldn't help showing a look of fear. It seemed that the terror of the breath just now still kept him in the fog and couldn't quit. Seeing the latter's expression, the elder Fan Hui's face was stunned again and pondered for a moment. His eyes were intertwined with the 2 vice presidents around him. He thought for a long time, but he couldn't help feeling surprised. Qin Yun is right in saying that. A few days ago, he was indeed very close to Xiao Yang, which was seen by everyone in the whole Jinyao city. The 3 guards beside him, as he said, would never leave him without his orders. But now, these 3 people surround Xiao Yang and look at them. Just now it was clear that after a fight, and looking at their position, it seemed that they intended to stop Xiao Yang. What are they blocking? Is it true that this boy named Xiao Yang did this? Even Qin Yun was used as his umbrella. Xiao Yang, who are you? A series of questions rose in President Fan's heart. The 2 vice presidents on both sides also frowned, especially Qi Ming. He always felt that they seemed to have missed something, but Qin Yun's words were not palatable. After all, Xiao Yang destroyed the array, which they really saw with their own eyes. It's really difficult for people to transfer the spearhead to him. But because of this, Qin Yun's words made Qi Ming more suspicious. Hiss. Suddenly, President Fan suddenly looked up and seemed to think of something. Almost at the same time, the 2 vice presidents behind him suddenly looked up and their eyes fell on Xiao Yang. If this boy is a herbalist, it makes sense to say that he is a member of the Alliance of Herbalists. Fan Huichang's face was gloomy and his eyes were full of murderous thoughts. While such thoughts rose in his heart, so did the 2 people behind him. The Alliance of Herbalists and their guild of array mags can't stand fire and water. Both sides regard each other as the sand in their eyes and want to kill each other quickly. Today, Xiao Yang took the opportunity to destroy the array while they were unprepared. There is no doubt that the Alliance of Herbalists is declaring war on them. Damn it! I didn't expect that the means of the Herbalist Alliance were so mean. In order to deal with us, they would do such a thing. Boss, what should we do now? Let's go. Catch the boy and destroy our moat. It's necessary to make him pay a price today. If such a young herbalist dies, I believe it's also a painful blow to them. Cheng Zhuhui and another vice president behind him also spoke one after another. In their words, they could hear a sense of killing. But I'm still curious now. The 3 guards around you are the strong ones of the 9-star fighting emperor. If you fight together, you can't pick up a hairy boy of the 5-star fighting emperor. Shouldn't you be on purpose? However, at this time, Qi Ming, who had been silent, frowned tightly, narrowed his eyes, locked Qin Yun's eyes, and said his doubts in a deep voice. This sentence was really asked about the point. At the moment when his words blurted out, several people around him also suddenly realized that they immediately turned their eyes to Xiao Yang. At a glance, they saw from the turbulent fighting spirit on the latter's body at the moment that he was really just a 5-star fighting emperor. 5-star fighting emperor. This boy is really just a 5-star fighting emperor. Cheng Zhehui's face became shocked when he saw Xiao Yang's breath for the first time, and he couldn't help but show an incredible look. It's no wonder that such a young 5-star fighting emperor will be favored by Qin Yun. It's just a pity that Qin Yun seems to see the wrong person. Qin Yun, you should give me a reasonable explanation for this. Otherwise, I still can't believe that he deliberately framed you. Fan Huichang's face sank, and his voice still contained a strong sense of doubt. Indeed, according to ordinary terms, how can a 5-star fighting emperor be the opponent of a 9-star fighting emperor? Even if it is faced alone, it is impossible to have any resistance, not to mention facing 3 at the same time. Considering this alone, Qin Yungong's words are full of lies. So, how can President Fan believe that a 5-star fighting emperor can destroy the moat under the joint efforts of 3 9-star fighting emperors? If they don't intend to release water, I'm afraid no one will believe it. As soon as they said this, the 2 people behind them immediately set their eyes on Qin Yun. At this time, Qin Yun looked indifferent. The situation at the moment was completely in his expectation. If President Fan doesn't want to believe it, you can ask other people in the square. They are all witnesses of this matter. Qin Yun smiled coldly, as if he was quite dissatisfied with President Fan's suspicion. Hearing the speech, Fan Huichang gave a cold hum and glanced at the people in the square below. As a result, as he expected, all the people who made eye contact with him quickly turned their heads and pretended to know nothing. Whether it's the Array Mage Association or Qin Yun, these 2 forces are giants for them. These people present can't provoke them. Of course, they will consciously act as if they didn't see anything just now. Qin Yun, you don't have to say more about these useless nonsense. If you don't have enough reason to convince me, you must stay with me even if they protect you today. President Fan gave a cold voice, his body trembled slightly, and the surging fighting spirit in his body immediately gushed out, like waves rippling around his body. Seeing this, Yang Hua in front of Qin Yun's face sank, and the soles of his feet took a half-step forward. A momentum belonging to the powerful 9-star fighting emperor also spread outward at this moment. At the same time, Yang He and another old man in black robe on the other side also changed slightly and wanted to come forward. Wait. At this time, Qin Yun made a sound again and stabilized these people. You 3 don't care about me, just stop Xiao Yang and never let him run away. Qin Yunlong gave a drink, which surprised Yang He. Seeing that Yang Hua had no action, Qin Yun shouted. The latter retreated and surrounded Xiao Yang with the 2 people again. Then Qin Yun turned his eyes again and looked at President Fan, saying, As for President Fan, I know you don't believe what I just said, but if you think Xiao Yang is really just an ordinary 5-star fighter, you are very wrong. What do you mean? President Fan frowned and felt suspicious. This video will end here.